The wife of the CEO swore she would rather die than marry me. But the family forced her into a marriage alliance with me, her mortal enemy. So, every day she brought strange men home to provoke me into divorce. Until the day I received a cancer diagnosis from the hospital. I suddenly realized that the years of silently loving her were meaningless. I then asked her to do 5 things with me before I would return her freedom. However, each time was ruined by her first love. But when I disappeared from the world with silent regret, my wife, Lucio, regretted it to the point of madness. At this moment, I frowned, looking at the scene before me. This wasn't the first time Lucio had brought a man home. The two were lying on the bed in silk pajamas. Lucio raised her eyebrows, looking at me with a nasty expression. How is it? Does he look more handsome in clothes than you? Killian, if I'm not mistaken, this is the 100th time. Things are already like this, yet you still won't sign? I subconsciously rubbed my throbbing stomach. For the first time. Not getting angry at her biting look. Get dressed properly and come talk. Lucio sneered at my back. Talk about what? What do I have to talk about with you? I stopped, without turning back. Talk about divorce. Lucio was clearly delighted after hearing this. Her lips slightly parted. That's great. Killian, you're finally getting your wish. Following that, she even politely congratulated me. I sat in the study for a maximum of 5 minutes. And Lucio rushed in, fully dressed. It was clear she couldn't wait to kick me out. Killian, you're not kidding me, are you? The bright, resolute look in her eyes was clearly visible to me. I was too lazy to talk nonsense. And directly pushed the divorce agreement on the table toward her. Take a look. If there are no issues, sign your name. Lucio picked up the papers full of suspicion. Her eyes full of scrutiny. She fundamentally didn't believe I would actually get a divorce. Our Cruz family had long since lost any notable glory. She thought I would definitely cling to her, trying to wring out her last drop of oil. But when she carefully read the agreement from beginning to end, she was completely stunned. Not only did I not demand anything from her, but I even voluntarily gave up this marital home. She knitted her eyebrows into a knot. Seriously? You won't just divorce and immediately run back to the old house to make trouble, will you? My face was expressionless. Seriously, I won't make trouble. Don't worry. Lucio didn't hesitate any longer, quickly signing her name at the bottom. As the final stroke was placed, the corner of her mouth lifted, as if a huge stone had finally dropped. It's signed. Let's hurry to the court to process the paperwork. 30 days of cooling off period. I don't want to spend one more day with you. At this moment, I frowned. I knew it. Are you regretting it again? My stomach was cramping. But looking at her sarcastic and disgusted expression, I said, let's go. I didn't delay for a second, completing the procedures with her. The staff handed us a form. Still muttering, if you regret it within these 30 days. Regret what? Lucio threw the pen onto the table, smiling incredibly brightly. I walked out a few steps slower, but saw her car still parked by the side of the road. She honked the horn. The car window rolled down halfway. Lucio took off her sunglasses, with a relaxed expression mocking me. Killian, we were together after all. Don't worry about not finding someone else. I think this girl is not bad. Lucio handed over a business card, clearly wanting to see me awkward. Unexpectedly, I reached out and took it. Okay, I'll consider it. After speaking, I calmly turned and left, leaving Lucio standing there dumbfounded. Lucio didn't know that these 30 days were not just the countdown to the divorce cooling off period, but also the countdown to my life. I walked alone on the street, holding tightly onto the thing the doctor gave me. It was my death sentence. It meant I could only live for a maximum of 30 more days. I'm truly sorry, Mr. Killian. Our hospital has tried its best. The feeling of being struck by lightning. This was not the first time. The Cruz family was now precarious, like a bullet hanging on a cliff, heavily placed on my shoulders. I was helpless at that time. I called Lucio, thinking that even arguing a few words would be fine. Perhaps my heart would feel better. But she hung up all my calls. And then, bothered by my calls, she simply turned off her phone and disappeared. When she reappeared, it was when she was embracing a young model. On our marital bed. My pain, she couldn't feel. What she saw was just a face that disgusted and repulsed her. She deliberately acted intimately with the model in front of me, making my eyes ache. How is it? Divorcing or not? I tried to escape from that room. No one in Distrito Federal didn't know that we had disliked each other since childhood, arguing whenever we met. Almost everyone thought I hated Lucio, just as she hated me. I touched the ring on my ring finger. It was something she reluctantly had to wear with me after marriage. When she threw it over, the ring box hit my face directly. Initially, I kept this feeling hidden, until Lucio forced me to perform marital duties. During that moment, Lucio suddenly touched the ring on my hand. She immediately laughed. Killian, you stubbornly refuse to divorce. Could it be that you really like me? If that's the case, then quickly get rid of your thoughts. I can't like you, and I even hate you very much. There is no such thing as groundless hatred. Lucio hated me because the Garcia family and the Cruz family had long been bound by the marriage alliance. Her first love was forced abroad because of this. That night I kept my eyes open until dawn. My mother died early. No one taught me how to keep the one I love. In my youth, I could only use sarcasm to attract her attention. What was the result? I blinked my dry eyes. The phone kept vibrating, interrupting my thoughts. I opened it to see. It was Lucio massively distributing red envelopes in the group chat. What's the good news? So happy, Miss Lucio? Her friends asked her. Lucio didn't say anything, and threw out a photo of the signed divorce agreement. Just this one picture made the whole group of people who had been diving for a long time resurface to gossip. Divorced? Killian agreed? This is definitely the best news. Lucio, you finally got rid of this burden. We must celebrate. Last time you said that every day you came home and saw his face, you were so uncomfortable you couldn't sleep. Now it's great. In the future, you can change 18 different men and no one will manage you. Doesn't it feel strange? Lucio looked for so many young actors. And Killian endured it all. Why can't he endure it this time? Could he be up to something? If he doesn't go through with the divorce procedure when the time limit is up, everything will still dissolve. As soon as these words were spoken, the whole group fell silent. Immediately after, my phone rang. Killian, are you messing with me? The cooling off period is over. Are you really going to process the divorce? Lucio's cold voice came through. I forced a stiff smile onto my pale face and said softly over the phone, yes, I am messing with you. Lucio, what can you do to me? On the other end, I could hear her increasingly heavy panting from anger. I thought to myself, if I were right in front of her then, I probably wouldn't have to wait a month. She would have strangled me to death on the spot before she could open her mouth to curse. I laughed out loud again. Lucio, I'm not messing with you this time. But I have one condition. Lucio didn't say anything, seeming to wait for me to continue. I was too lazy to care, and continued on my own. I want you to do 10 things with me. Once completed, I will definitely sign and process the divorce. I guarantee that. From now on, I will completely disappear from your world. This condition was indeed too tempting. Lucio frowned tightly. 10 things is too many. 5 things. I chuckled softly, agreed. The first thing was to ask Lucio to attend a charity gala with me. I finished getting ready. When Lucio arrived, her fingers rapidly slid across her phone screen, not even bothering to glance at me. I didn't care either, knowing she wouldn't say anything nice. But after getting into the car, Lucio glanced at me, then frowned. Are you sick? Your face is as yellow as turmeric. You look horribly unattractive. I curled my fingers, looking straight ahead, not answering. It's not weight loss, it's liberation. When getting out of the car, Lucio suddenly grabbed my hand tightly. Seeing my expression stiffen slightly, her voice was full of sarcasm. What's wrong? Never held hands before? We've done more intimate things. What are you pretending to be innocent for now? My cold hand was pulled by Lucio's cool hand. This was indeed not the first time she had held my hand, but it was the first time she had taken the initiative to hold my hand. The people present, seeing our strange yet harmonious appearance, almost had their eyes pop out. The auction began. I set my sight on something I wanted, subconsciously intending to raise the bidding sign. Lucio beside me beat me to it. It was a painting by a deceased foreign master. Many people wanted it, so they continuously raised the price. In the end, Lucio still paid a high price to win it. My heart suddenly felt warm. Lucio, please send this painting to the Perez family in Spain for me. Lucio didn't even look at me. My outstretched hand hung in midair. It turned out, the painting wasn't bought for me. A strong sour feeling seemed to want to drown my entire being. I suddenly stood up and walked straight out the door. Lucio frowned, not raising her voice but fiercely pulling my arm. It's not over yet. Where are you going? I used some force, but still couldn't escape her grip. Lucio began to lose patience. You were the one who asked me to bring you here. Now what kind of fit are you throwing? You really are sick. The phrase, you really are sick, stung my heart like a needle. Yes, I am sick. I shook off her hand, walking quickly outside without looking back. For a whole week, I didn't contact Lucio. Initially, Lucio didn't care at all. But thinking about the 4 unfinished tasks, she became restless. It seemed she wanted to finish quickly, to completely remove me from her world sooner. She couldn't hold back anymore and called me. Lucio's call came right after I finished chemotherapy. My illness had worsened very quickly. My entire body was sore to the point of numbness. There are still 4 tasks. Kilian, don't even think about playing tricks. Lucio said coldly. I was silent for a moment. I want to take a trip to Tibet. Lucio frowned. Now, are you sure? Yes, right now. I replied resolutely. Lucio felt I was definitely a lunatic. But because she wanted the divorce. In order to get rid of me, Lucio actually immediately bought 2 plane tickets to Tibet. When I arrived, wrapped up tightly, Lucio was already impatiently waiting. What's with all the drama? I said I would pick you up, but you refused, and now you're dragging your feet after coming by yourself. Hearing her endless nagging, I wordlessly shoved my suitcase into her hand. You're the only one talking too much. Lucio snorted coldly, and casually took all the small items from my hands. She didn't even realize these unconscious actions herself. When the plane was about to take off, Lucio's phone suddenly rang. I stood at the boarding gate, watching her from afar. Lucio gripped her phone tightly, her entire body tense. I'm sorry, Kilian, I can't go to Tibet anymore. With that, Lucio turned and ran out of the airport. I calmly took out my phone. And sure enough, at the top of my social feed was a post from Carlos. He said nothing, just posted a picture of a painting. Lucio abandoned me and her promise without hesitation. Dear customer, it's almost time. The flight attendant reminded me. I calmed down, no longer lingering on her retreating figure, and walked in the opposite direction. After landing in Tibet, I received a text message from Lucio. I'll be there in 2 days. You go ahead and complete it yourself. I was slightly surprised. It turned out she was just late, not absent. It seemed she was genuinely eager to break free. I didn't wait for Lucio. Found a local island, and joined a small tour group with others. My physical strength couldn't keep up. Most of the time I rested in my room. When Lucio rushed to find me, I had already packed my luggage and was preparing to leave. Kilian, I put so many things on hold to officially accompany you. And you're playing games with me like this? She angrily kicked over my suitcase. Looking at the clothes scattered across the floor, I gave a wry smile. Accompanying me? Isn't Carlos right next door? Lucio's face changed color, and she weakly defended herself. Kilian. Carlos, he's just here for inspiration. Can you stop making things difficult for him all the time? I curled my fingers, not responding. I just bent down to pick up the clothes on the floor. Am I interrupting you too? Carlos suddenly appeared at the door. The anger on Lucio's face instantly vanished, replaced by caution and worry. Aren't you feeling well? Why are you up? Sigh, I can't just lie down all the time. What are you two talking about? I heard a loud noise so I came over to check. Hearing him say that, Lucio finally glanced at me. It's nothing. Are you hungry? I'll go make you something to eat. Carlos nodded slightly awkwardly. He was indeed a bit hungry. Lucio turned to leave, but then stopped. She threw a sentence full of frustration at me. And you, do you want anything to eat? I stuffed the last shirt into the suitcase. Just that much made me sweat profusely. I noticed the monumental shift in her tone. So I calmly said, "No need." When Lucio saw me refuse, her face immediately darkened. "Then don't eat. Let yourself starve to death. Your face is as yellow as a ghost's." The door slammed shut with a bang. Only Carlos and I were left in the room. This wasn't the first time I'd met him. The Perez family in Spain was just newly rich. The Garcia family naturally disliked them. But Carlos was arrogant, feeling the Garcia family looked down on people. That year, he angrily left the country, intending to make a name for himself before returning. Now he was shamefully back. And the first thing he did was contact Lucio. This first love, no matter how I looked at it, seemed ridiculous. Without Lucio in front of him, Carlos didn't bother to pretend. "Mr. Kilian, long time no see." He kicked over the suitcase I had just finished packing. Looking at the mess of belongings I had laboriously tidied up being so easily ruined, my self-esteem suddenly rose to my throat. Knowing well that Carlos was deliberately provoking me, I still couldn't help but take the bait. I landed a punch on his pale face. When Lucio pushed the door open and walked in, it was just in time to see the bruise in the reddened corner of Carlos's eye. She was still carrying the bowl of noodles meant for me. She immediately dropped it all onto the floor. She didn't ask any questions, rushing straight over, raising her hand and slapping my face hard. "Kilian, haven't you caused enough trouble?" Carlos sniffled and looked at Lucio. "It's all my fault. I accidentally knocked over Kilian's suitcase. I know he doesn't welcome me. I'll leave." He rushed out the door. Lucio didn't say anything, intending to chase after him. I abruptly called her back. "Lucio, the third task. Stay." Lucio clenched her hands into tight fists, glaring at me, her anger blazing. I knew what she wanted to say. I gasped for breath, slumping to the ground as if exhausted, rubbing my ear that was ringing from her slap. I started folding the clothes on the floor again. "Don't you wish to divorce me and marry Carlos? Once this task is done, there are only 2 more left. Do you want to give up halfway? Honestly, you did terribly on the first 2 tasks. Could it be that you're reluctant to divorce me?" After speaking, I looked up at her, only to see her bottomless eyes filled with contempt. "Kilian, humans and ghosts should know their limits. Too bad you don't have that good fortune. I agree to this third task. But you must remember clearly. The Cruz family can't protect you anymore. If you dare to touch a single hair on Carlos's head again, I will make you suffer death." I lowered my head and let out a series of wry smiles. Who can't speak harshly? In the past, even during our fiercest arguments, Lucio had never won against me. Besides, soon I would be gone, as she wished. She wouldn't even need to lift a finger. Lucio called Carlos. And after a while, under her arrangement, Carlos went back first. Watching her carefully protect him like that, my heart felt as bitter as swallowing poison. It turned out Lucio wasn't incapable of loving someone else. She just didn't love me. When Lucio returned from outside, I still hadn't finished organizing those clothes. She truly couldn't stand it, pulling me up and bending down herself to fold the clothes. "You're utterly useless. Just these few trinkets, and you've been folding them for half a day. An outsider would think you were about to die. Without even this little bit of strength." A sudden impulse hit me, and I wanted to tease her. "You got it right, I am about to die. How about that? If I die, will you regret what you've done to me before?" Lucio paused for a second, looked up, her face full of mockery. "Regret? You're thinking too much. If you died right now, I would immediately set off fireworks for 3 days and 3 nights. And invite everyone in Distrito Federal to a feast and drink to their heart's content." I laughed until tears streamed down, holding my chin. "Lucio, your mouth is truly poisonous. We were husband and wife. After all, I didn't stay there long. I clearly felt my body couldn't handle it. After returning to Distrito Federal, I was bedridden for another week. Every time after chemotherapy, my hair fell out at a visibly rapid rate. When Lucio called to urge me to complete the last 2 tasks, I hid in the bathroom and cried all afternoon. After crying, I wrapped myself up tightly and rushed to the mall to buy a wig. "Did you cut your hair?" Lucio looked at me, asking with a hint of surprise. I didn't answer her question and walked straight into her car. "Let's go." Lucio frowned, subconsciously wanting to feel my wig. I saw her hand and quickly dodged, urging Hurry up, drive. Lucio then got into the car. A friendly reminder. You have less than 7 days left in the cooling off period. Hurry up and complete the last 2 tasks. I didn't reply to her. My eyes constantly looking out the car window. I was too busy before. Busy arguing with Lucio. Busy trying to get her to notice me. That I missed many beautiful sights of Distrito Federal. I once thought that as long as I stood on the same level as her, we could enjoy the scenery together. But the truth is, to someone who doesn't love you, even if you are right next to them, she ignores you, but for the person she loves, she is willing to lower her proud spine for them. The 4th task I requested was to ask Lucio to accompany me to the amusement park. How childish. Lucio glanced at me with disdain. I lowered my eyes. I had seen her take Carlos to the amusement park. And she didn't look bothered at all while taking photos for him. I didn't want to compete with Carlos. It was just a childhood wish. To go to the amusement park with Lucio once. The 4th task was to fulfill a dream for little Killian of the past. Although Lucio was walking beside me, her mind had drifted away. Her eyes never left her phone. I asked her to take a picture of me, calling her 4 or 5 times, before her eyes finally left the screen and looked towards me. Night fell. Lucio had urged me to go home 3 times. I pretended not to hear her, until the lights of the Ferris wheel not far away lit up. My eyes brightened and I pointed towards it. We'll go on that and then go home. Seeing my eyes suddenly light up, Lucio was stunned. After a while, she pursed her lips. Killian, even if we reach the top of the Ferris wheel, I still won't like you. Time passed little by little. My eyes were slightly stinging. I abruptly turned my face away. You're thinking too much. I just have never been on this before. The sound of a phone ringing broke the silence. It was Carlos on the other end, speaking hurriedly about something. Hanging up the phone, Lucio rushed away again. This time, she didn't even bother to say sorry. The Ferris wheel reached its highest point. I looked down at the myriad lights of the city below my feet. Tears rolling down my cheeks. I quietly said to myself in a low voice, Killian, happy birthday. After that night, I had a high fever and was rushed to the emergency room. My ears were filled with the chime of the equipment. But it was as if I heard nothing at all. In a daze, I vaguely saw Lucio arrive. Looking at my dying state, there was not a hint of distress in her eyes. Lucio grinned widely at me. Serves you right, you should have accepted being despised sooner. It would have saved me the trouble of doing that last ridiculous task of yours. In my dream, I was so angry I ground my teeth. But inside, I felt soaked in sour lemon juice. Soaked for 3 days and 3 nights. I tried my best to hold onto my breath and opened my eyes. But she wasn't in front of me at all. Oh my God, you're finally awake. Do you know how long you've been asleep? My best friend, Dembele, told me. I am a competitive person. People in our circle are all those who look down on the fallen. The Cruz family collapsed, and Lucio had always been at odds with me. Everyone knew the Cruz family was done for. And Lucio would surely be the first to rush over to mock me. Therefore, they had long chosen sides, drawing a clear line with me. Only Dembele, who had always taken care of me, remained by my side. Dembele could talk to me. Hearing him say that, I hurriedly asked, "What day is it today?" Dembele was stunned for a moment, thinking I was sad because I didn't have much time left. He hid his emotions, carefully spoke, trying to console me. The 28th. The 28th? Where is my wig? I interrupted him. Dembele clearly paused for a moment. Here, I put it away for you. I curled my fingers, taking the wig from his hand. I lowered my head. No one could clearly see my expression. Dembele, did anyone visit while I was asleep? My voice was very small, my fingers gripping the wig tightly. Dembele looked at me like this and felt extremely uncomfortable. But he didn't want to lie to me. Truly, Lucio didn't come. After speaking, Dembele quickly turned his head away, trying to blink away his reddened eyes. Not only did she not come, she was too lazy to pay attention to our calls and hints. Coma? Are you kidding? Who is in a coma? Killian won't be in a coma. I'm busy, I don't have time to get entangled with him. Except for the last task, I won't easily do anything else. Tell him to stop being so dramatic. Stop causing trouble. I called Lucio, and she hung up on me. After 3 times, I also lost patience. I sent her a text message. Sure enough, less than 2 minutes later, the phone rang back. But Lucio's voice clearly showed fatigue. Carlos is sick. I have to take care of him. The last task, let's talk about it in 2 days. She finished speaking and wanted to hang up. I quickly spoke up. No, the last task must be done today. As soon as the words were out, Lucio's icy laugh came from the other end. It's only a 2-day delay. It's not like I'm not going to do it. Kilian, you should know when to stop. My nose stung, and I tried to swallow the bitter taste in my throat. I pretended to be very relaxed. And even though my entire body ached as if it would fall apart, I laughed. Lucio, only this last ridiculous task is left. Once it's done, you're completely free. Could it be that you regret it and want to continue being my wife? Fine by me, I don't care anyway. This move always worked on Lucio. After hanging up the phone, I held the phone and laughed nonstop, until tears slid into my mouth. That bitter taste was even more unpleasant than a knife cutting my heart. I was afraid she would notice something was wrong. And also afraid that before I died, I would have to endure another bout of her unwarranted sarcasm. I deliberately asked Dembele to help me tidy up a bit before she arrived. The walk should have taken a maximum of 5 minutes. But I dragged my feet for nearly 20 minutes before staggering in front of Lucio. You're so slow. Only the last task is left. Hurry up and say it. Looking at her impatient expression, I didn't feel rushed at all. I sat in the passenger seat and fastened my seatbelt myself. After finishing, I looked up at Lucio. It's a small thing, make me lunch. Lucio looked at me with suspicion. Just one lunch? I nodded, whispering, just one lunch. Lucio stared at me suspiciously, sizing me up and down several times. For the previous 4 tasks, I had deliberately made things difficult for her. For this final crucial task, she probably expected me to ask her to pluck the moon from the sky. Something completely unreasonable. Unexpectedly, it was just making me lunch. She looked at her phone, then quickly lowered her head to send a few texts to someone. And then drove to the supermarket. This was the first time Lucio and I went to the supermarket together. It was also the first time the two of us acted like a normal couple. We pushed the shopping cart together. I walked beside her, pointing out what to buy. At the checkout, she stood next to me. A child running too fast almost bumped into me. Lucio instinctively pulled me away. Her hand gripped mine tightly at that moment. I lowered my head to look at our 2 hands clasped together. This was the second time she had proactively held my hand. But before I could even feel the warmth from her palm, she strongly shook me off. I returned with her to our marital home. This house held our rare shared memories. Lucio, who was forced to marry me that year, tried every way to resist me after marriage. The 10 times she sought out other people that I discovered were just the tip of the iceberg. Lucio changed her shoes and went straight into the kitchen. The forced breath I was holding was released after she turned her back. I sank to the floor. When she came out, I put on that expressionless mask again. I looked indifferently at the dishes Lucio laid out. She knows how to cook. This, I truly didn't know. Such an arrogant woman who looked down on others actually learned to cook for someone. Lucio truly liked Carlos. You made so many dishes. Are we the only 2 eating? I looked at her bringing out plates of food, a little surprised. In my current health condition, I fundamentally couldn't finish it. Eating 2 more bites would definitely expose me. Lucio placed the last plate down, her expression quite calm. I didn't say it would only be the 2 of us. Before I could react, the doorbell rang. The next second, Lucio suddenly smiled brightly and ran to open the door. Lucio, am I late? It's all those students today who kept clinging to me with questions. Carlos acted extremely naturally, taking out a pair of men's slippers from the shoe cabinet that I had just bought but never worn. Seeing his familiarity with this house, my whole body tensed up. Not late, right on time, go wash your hands and eat. Lucio's gentle voice pierced my ears like needles. Carlos smiled, then walked to the dining table. Mr. Kilian, I'm so sorry to keep you waiting. I didn't answer him. And he didn't wait for my reply either. He plopped down on the chair. Lucio, You're so good. You even prepared my bowl and chopsticks already. Knowing you like things clean. I washed them 3 or 4 times waiting for you. Lucio replied with a smile. So what reward do you want? Carlos asked with a grin. Lucio reached out and touched his face. I just want you to eat well. You've been teaching classes and sick recently, you've lost weight. I remained silent, watching the couple across from me. One sentence after another. My heart, which was supposed to be dead, ached again. I couldn't help but interrupt them. Lucio, is this the last thing you promised to do for me? My entire body felt uncomfortable, as if pricked by needles. Lucio looked up at me, only then noticing how thin I had become. She looked a little unnatural, but still maintained her composure and reasoning. I made so many dishes, and you can't possibly eat it all by yourself, can you? Carlos just recovered from his illness. I've had to take care of him at the hospital for many days. You were the one who insisted on doing this last task right now. Could I possibly abandon Carlos? Carlos sat across from me, his smug look, mocking me as a fool from start to finish. I suddenly felt utterly powerless. The last bit of strength I was forcing myself to hold onto was punched away. I was very uncomfortable. My whole body felt unwell. It wasn't just the cutting pain in my heart, but even my bones ached deeply. I lowered my head, rising like a walking corpse, my eyes constantly looking down at the ground. Lucio, I shouldn't have expected anything from you. My words were so soft they were almost inaudible, like a silent needle dropping to the floor. Seeing me get up to leave, Lucio's foot instinctively moved slightly. But in the next second, Carlos beat her to it. Carlos reached out to stop me. Whether intentionally or unintentionally, the button on his wrist got accidentally caught on my wig. Almost instantly, my wig was yanked off by him and fell to the floor. Lucio's face darkened. She gasped. Kilian, what's with your hair? I turned my back to her, my hands shaking violently, uncontrollably. My mind was completely blank. This action by Carlos was like tearing away my last covering cloth. Just as I didn't know how to explain, preparing to abandon everything and tell Lucio the whole truth, Carlos bent down and picked up the wig that had fallen on the ground. He put on a serious face and said to me in a tone of blame, Kilian, I really didn't expect you to be so heartless as to cut off all your hair. Just to keep Lucio. After the 5 tasks, are you planning to pull the stunt of becoming a monk? To threaten Lucio again? Hearing this, Lucio immediately retracted the surprise in her eyes from a moment ago. She exploded in anger, then pushed forward, fiercely snatching the wig from Carlos's hand. She violently tore it apart and threw it forcefully into the nearby trash can like garbage. Kilian, do you have any shame left? Using the trick of becoming a monk to threaten me? Do you think I'm scared? Let me tell you clearly today. Even if you die the next second, I, Lucio, must completely cut off ties with you before your last breath. My tears fell uncontrollably, my hate inaudible. Lucio, do you hate me that much? Lucio's eyes darted away slightly, as if she didn't want to look at the man across from her. Kilian, it's been 3 years, haven't you understood yet? Yes, it's been 3 years. I cherished this block of ice for 3 years. She never noticed how clean I kept the house. And she never noticed whose hands prepared the coordinated dresses and skirts placed at the end of the bed every time she went out. I and she were husband and wife for 3 years. Yet she was like a temporary guest in this house. Only I stubbornly held on, trying to live day by day with a little fake warmth. My anger subsided, and I returned to my usual indifferent expression. Tomorrow morning at 9. Meet at the courthouse entrance. I bent down to retrieve the wig from the trash can, turned, and left this so-called home. Lucio looked at my thin back. Her chest suddenly constricted as if someone was squeezing it. Before she could think clearly, her feet unconsciously moved to follow. Lucio. Carlos pulled her arm fiercely from behind, the cunning in his eyes apparent. Where are you going? Lucio was distracted for a few seconds, then frowned. I'm going to see what kind of trick Kilian is pulling with his shaved head. Don't I understand him? Before, if I accidentally dropped a strand of his hair, he'd jump up and want to fight me. Now he's shaved his head completely. No matter how I think about it, something feels wrong. Carlos's face darkened. Seeing that Lucio genuinely wanted to chase after me, he suddenly clutched his stomach and bent over. Lucio's footsteps halted. Carlos, what's wrong? Lucio, hurry and go find Kilian. Don't worry about me, Carlos said, enduring the pain. Lucio bent down, looking at his uncomfortable expression, and wrapped her arms around him to help him stand up. I'll take you to the hospital first. After leaving that place, I hadn't gone far before I collapsed by the side of the road, and a kind stranger took me to the hospital. When I woke up, Dembele was wiping the sweat from my forehead with a pained expression. Kilian, does it still hurt a lot? The pain was so intense that even breathing was difficult. Dembele, help me book a bus ticket. In this state, where are you planning to go? Dembele sounded a little helpless. I gently raised my stiff arm. The weather in Distrito Federal has been gray and damp lately. I never had free time before. Now that I finally have some, I want to go to more places and see more things. Dembele's tears wouldn't stop falling. Looking at my increasingly gaunt face, he said, I'll go with you. I shook my head. I had troubled Dembele more than enough. I knew he was afraid that if I couldn't hold on and passed away alone somewhere, no one would handle my affairs. Your job finally stabilized. The debt of kindness I owe you is countless. I don't know what I can use to repay you anymore. Dembele's tears streamed down like rain. Hearing me say that, he rushed forward and hugged me tightly, sobbing. You fool! Who told you to worry about repaying debts? You have to live well for me. Why let that wretched couple benefit so easily? It was Carlos who left on his own that year, and Lucio drove wildly chasing after him. Which is why the accident happened on the road. If you hadn't been foolish, willingly staying to take care of her, pretending to be the person she loved to give her the courage to live, the Garcia family would have given up on Lucio long ago. Why do you have to bear all the suffering? Who understands the hardships you've gone through? Dembele, I've let go. I looked out the window, speaking softly, as if looking at my past self. The appointed time had long passed. But Lucio was hesitant, showing no intention of leaving at all. When Carlos asked for the third time, she finally put down the cup of water she had just given him. It's time. Carlos frowned, looking at the obviously distracted Lucio. Lucio, you're not well. Could it be that you fundamentally don't want to go through with the divorce with Kilian? How could that be? Lucio blurted out. I deliberately want to make him wait a little. I endured 3 years married to him. Now that the divorce is finally happening, he's making me do all these tasks. Let him wait until his eyes are tired today. Carlos's gaze was suspicious, but he finally breathed a sigh of relief when he saw her stand up and prepare to leave. Lucio sat in the car but didn't start the engine. She herself didn't understand what she was doing. This was clearly the outcome she had longed for all this time. She impatiently retracted her lipstick, and every time she thought of Kilian's bald head, her heart felt restless. She hadn't not tried to ask him after that day, but he wouldn't answer her calls, and her texts were like stones sinking into the ocean. Even when she wanted to apologize, his attitude made her swallow it back. Lucio turned the steering wheel and drove towards the courthouse. She was determined that when she met Kilian, she would grab his collar and demand an explanation. What was the shaved head for? Could it be that Carlos really guessed correctly? As soon as the divorce was finalized, was he planning to become a monk? She knew Kilian liked her, but she didn't think he could be this crazy, daring to use that to threaten her. The car quickly reached the courthouse entrance, but Kilian, who should have arrived long ago, was nowhere to be seen. Lucio foolishly waited until the staff had all left. As dusk settled, Kilian still didn't appear. Looking at the gradually empty street corner, she angrily burst out laughing, kicking the tire hard. Kilian, you're something. At this moment, the emergency room lights in the hospital were blindingly bright. Doctors and nurses rushed my bed, the oxygen mask covered in white condensation. Dembele tightly gripped my hand, not letting go, his tears flowing non-stop. Kilian, the bus tickets are all bought. You can go anywhere you want. You have to hold on. You must hold on. You said there were many places you hadn't seen yet. When you wake up, I'll quit my job and go with you to find those places. Okay? Wake up, man. Dembele wept uncontrollably. But I lay on the bed, unable to move. Where is the family member? Quickly find the family member to sign. Dembele shot up, his tears flowing even faster. I'm calling. I'm calling. His hand trembled so much he almost dropped the phone. The phone rang countless times. But the other end stubbornly refused to pick up. Pick up the phone, Lucio. Dembele anxiously stamped his foot. Calling again and again. Finally, only the cold dial tone remained. His face was ashen. Lucio had blocked Kilian's number. His fingers gripped the phone until his knuckles were white. His eyes filled with despair. Lucio, you will regret this. Meanwhile, what about Lucio? She was comfortably curled up on the sofa, her phone placed on the coffee table in front of her. She looked at Kilian's missed call notifications, lighting up repeatedly, her lazy eyes completely indifferent. With one hand, she gently swirled her glass of wine. And with the other, she held the phone, bluntly dragging Kilian into her blacklist. Kilian stood her up, making her wait there like an idiot for so long. The promise of freedom after 5 tasks was all a lie. She knew this man was full of deceit. She shouldn't have believed him. What a waste of her time playing his games for a whole month. Thinking that he must be lurking somewhere right now, waiting to see her humiliation. What else could he possibly do? By calling her besides mocking her? Lucio's eyes were blazing. She picked up the phone and slammed it onto the ground. Carlos walked in, seeing her overwhelming anger. His heart skipped a beat. Lucio, what's wrong? He asked cautiously, observing Lucio's expression. Kilian didn't show up, Lucio said, frowning. The smile on Carlos's face immediately froze. No wonder. Lucio lowered her eyes, her brow twitching constantly. She had a bad feeling. What, no wonder? Carlos pretended to be awkward. Lucio, I didn't want to interfere in your business. But this time Kilian has truly gone too far. Do you know? I just heard from friends that Kilian hired some actor, pretending to be hospital staff, saying he was critically ill and needed surgery, urging others to come sign for him. Right, Lucio. Did you receive any call like that? Lucio didn't answer, her eyes falling on the shattered phone. Carlos's gaze shifted as well. As I thought. Immediately after, he put on a distressed expression. Lucio, I also don't understand why he keeps making things difficult for you. Maybe he really doesn't want to divorce? Does that mean he likes you? What about you? You've been together for 3 years after all. Do you have any feelings? Lucio clenched her fists. She suddenly hugged Carlos. And without a word, kissed him. The two kissed passionately. Carlos was kissed until he felt soft all over, leaning against her chest. Lucio, I love you, as long as I'm in your heart. I'm willing to be with you without a title. Lucio's eyes were shaken, and she looked at Carlos with heartache. Carlos, I won't let you suffer such injustice. You will definitely be my legitimate husband. Lucio's. After Carlos left, Lucio couldn't sit still anymore. She immediately used her work phone to call her assistant home. Starting today, any project the Cruz family is targeting, we must go all out to fight for it. Take it at any cost. And for the old clients collaborating with the Cruz family, notify them one by one. I want to see whose side the Garcia family and the Cruz family stand on. The Cruz family is being unreasonable. Don't blame me for showing no mercy. The assistant standing beside her was surprised, and couldn't help but interrupt her. But Miss Lucio, the Cruz family announced bankruptcy and liquidation this morning. Mr. Cruz, the head of the family, was also cremated not long ago. Lucio froze on the spot. She was completely unaware. Seeing her shocked expression, the assistant explained helplessly. It was because of your instructions. The entire company was forbidden from mentioning the Cruz family. We were told not to bother with any of their matters. Moreover, for such a major event as her father-in-law's death. Who would have thought? Lucio, the daughter-in-law, was truly completely oblivious. After the assistant left, Lucio sat on the sofa in a daze for a long time. Because she hated Kilian and the Cruz family. Even after 3 years of marriage, she didn't allow Kilian to step foot into her company. Nor did she allow the Cruz family to use this relationship to touch a single hair of the Garcia family's assets. Kilian once witnessed her giving orders to her assistant. And then he mocked her with an expressionless face. Lucio. Don't speak too absolutely. Who knows, maybe one day. You'll have to beg me to use this intertwined relationship. Thinking of this, Lucio's mind was in turmoil. She truly hated Kilian. And also looked down on the Cruz family. But for such a major event as the collapse of the Cruz family, Kilian quietly hid it from her. Did he want outsiders to watch her be ridiculed? To call her cold-blooded and heartless? If that was the case, he could forget about it. She darkened her face and called Kilian. The phone rang a few times and someone picked up. Without waiting for the other party to speak, she barraged them with questions. Kilian. You're incredible. Standing me up, you must have had a great time playing with me, right? Is it entertaining? I'm too lazy to care about your Cruz family's nonsense. But even about your father's death, you didn't bother to tell me a word. Deliberately wanting people to laugh at my Garcia family? Let me tell you clearly. I found the diary in your locked cabinet a long time ago. I know all your thoughts about me. Listen carefully. I don't like you. Not only do I not like you, but I find you disgusting. I despise everyone in your Cruz family. It's fine that you didn't show up. I'm happy to proceed with a lawsuit. I want to see what you will use to fight me. Kilian, without the backing of the Cruz family. After she finished speaking, the other end of the line was dead silent. So silent that there wasn't even the sound of breathing. Lucio frowned, intending to continue scolding. But the phone was abruptly cut off with a click. She was stunned, waiting until she angrily called back. She found Kilian's phone was turned off. She was furious, immediately wanting to send people to find Kilian. She felt he was truly asking for a beating. Every time he provoked her like this before, she always had a way to keep him out of bed for several days. But now, Lucio suddenly stiffened. What was she just thinking of to torment him? It was just pinning him down on the bed. Lucio felt Kilian had driven her insane. So later, when Carlos came to find her, she agreed without a word to go abroad with him for an exhibition. The people who came to the exhibition were all prominent figures, both domestic and international. Seeing that the person standing next to Lucio was not Kilian, they exchanged glances with one another, with an expression of, I understand. Who in Distrito Federal didn't know that Lucio and Kilian were the famous enemies couple? Now that the Cruz family has collapsed, the Garcia family has no intention of helping, and clearly hates Kilian to the bone. Those with foresight quickly came up to Lucio and Carlos to make their acquaintance. Mr. Carlos, you and Miss Lucio standing together are truly a match made in heaven. That's right, that's right. I heard you two were a couple back then. If the Cruz family hadn't interfered, you would definitely be the Garcia family's son-in-law now. Carlos's mouth curled up slightly. Pleased in his heart, it's all Kilian's fault. I heard. The Cruz family originally intended to send him abroad, but that brat refused to go, insisting on marrying CEO Lucio. Really? Weren't those two always at odds? The topic suddenly shifted. The few women clustered together gossiping, and in turn, forgot about Carlos. Hearing this, Carlos's face immediately fell. He impatiently turned to leave, and turned back to see Lucio standing behind him. He had no idea when she had arrived. The women reacted, giggling and covering up. Miss Lucio, Mr. Carlos, you two just take your time looking around. We'll go wander over there for a bit. They nudged each other and backed away, then left. But Lucio remained standing still. Carlos quickly forced a smile, stepped forward and hooked his arm through hers. When did you get here? Why didn't you call me? Lucio's expression was still normal. Just arrived. I was about to call you. When you turned around, am I interrupting you? Of course not, they were just talking nonsense. Let's go. I heard an important painting is being exhibited today. Lucio nodded, letting Carlos hook her arm and walk forward. But her mind was filled with the words that woman had just spoken. It turned out, the Cruz family originally had no intention of marrying into the Garcia family at all. The marriage between her and Kilian was something Kilian himself begged for. What did he want? Could it be that he didn't start liking her only after they got married? The unknown fire in Lucio's heart burned stronger and stronger. This unclear feeling had never stopped since she genuinely decided to divorce. She suddenly lost interest in the exhibition. Wanting to sneak out to calm down, Carlos suddenly excitedly pulled her back, stopping in front of a painting. This artist is also from our country, but hasn't appeared for many years. Lucio, can you help me find him? Lucio frowned. Why look for him? I want to apprentice under him. Everyone in my circle respects him. He must be quite old now. If I can become his disciple, I'm sure I'll become famous in the art world. Lucio was silent for a moment. She hadn't expected he wanted to be famous. Not genuinely wanting to learn something. But she still nodded to Carlos. Carlos happily bent down and kissed the corner of her lips. At this moment, a few staff members in the distance carefully carried a painting over. Seeing this, everyone was curious and gathered around. Carlos's eyes lit up, and he pulled her to squeeze to the front. The painting was covered with a black cloth. The few staff members nearby looked particularly solemn. The museum manager lowered his eyes slightly, the emotions deep within them unclear, and announced regretfully to everyone, "This painting is the artist's last work while alive." Everyone present immediately gasped. They were extremely shocked. While alive? If the person has passed away, isn't that a posthumous work? Won't the price be ridiculously inflated? The museum manager didn't answer. His eyes filled with deep sorrow. He slowly turned around and unveiled the cloth. A chorus of gasps rang out from the crowd again. The final painting depicted the back of a woman. In the sunset, her shadow stretched out, her hair blowing in the wind, her gaze fixed on the distance. Just as everyone was marveling at the artist's talent, Carlos noticed the person next to him was acting a little strange. Lucio, what's wrong? Lucio's body trembled uncontrollably. Her teeth were tightly clenched. Her eyes glued to the red string on the wrist of the person in the painting. That red string was too dazzling. Her voice was choked, dry, trying to suppress the stiffness on her face. She turned to Carlos and said, "Carlos, I'm a little hungry. I suddenly really want to eat the pork rib soup. You simmered for me that time I was hospitalized due to a car accident." Carlos was stunned for a moment. Then a gentle smile immediately bloomed on his face. "All right. But it's been a long time since I made it. You can't complain if it's not good." He turned his head, his gaze fixed passionately on the famous painting. But the smile on his face was still a bit arrogant. Lucio's hands unconsciously trembled. During that hospitalization, she never drank any bowl of pork rib soup. Carlos was not the one who took care of her at all. Who was that person after all? She was a little afraid to think about it. The answer seemed to be dangling right in front of her. But she was terrified of the impending revelation. After returning to their accommodation with Carlos, Lucio immediately went back to the exhibition. She abruptly pushed open the door to the museum manager's office. "Where is the author of that painting? I want to meet him." The museum manager was stunned, and only understood who she was asking about after a moment. He let out a heavy sigh. "I'm sorry, Miss Lucio. That artist has passed away." Lucio scoffed. "Impossible. Is he Kilian?" The museum manager's eyes suddenly widened upon hearing this, his face full of shock. Seeing this, Lucio was even more certain. But she still had too many things she couldn't understand. "I have something I want to ask him. Help me arrange a meeting with him." The museum manager looked confused. "If Miss Lucio knows him, why don't you go find him yourself?" Lucio bit her lip tightly. How could she say it? Say that she fundamentally couldn't contact Kilian? Or say that Kilian had blocked her number? The museum manager handed her an address and a phone number. She didn't hesitate to book a flight back home. She casually made up an excuse, leaving Carlos alone abroad. She had a stomach full of questions that she absolutely had to ask face to face. Lucio once accidentally stumbled upon Kilian's painting spot. But at the time, not only did she not care, she even felt a little disdain, thinking he was just imitating others. She even deliberately leaned against the doorframe, uttering harsh words, saying his painting was far inferior to Carlos's. Kilian only replied with a cold laugh. "If your eyes haven't fully healed, go get them checked again." When the final painting of that artist and the person Kilian matched up, Lucio almost immediately confirmed it was Kilian. The red string on the wrist of the person in the painting of the back view was the protective charm that Carlos had personally prayed for her during the days she was blind due to the car accident. Unfortunately, it later broke. She always thought the red string broke because her family forced her to marry Kilian, and she couldn't decide her own life. Like prey being tightly bound, unable to escape the cage. Kilian, that fool, for unknown reasons, also foolishly ran up the mountain, bowing every step, trying to pray for an identical string to bring back. She was instantly enraged, using scissors to cut the newly retrieved red string. She would never forget the look in Kilian's eyes when he looked at her at that moment. She knew in her heart that she was being a little too much. But how could she soften and apologize to him? The result was that the next morning, Lucio discovered a large lock of the hair she painstakingly cared for had been cut off by Kilian. Lucio followed the address on the piece of paper to the place. She still thought Kilian would be the one to open the door. She even prepared the words to mock him. Pulling off such a big stunt. What exactly do you want? Isn't it that you don't want to divorce me? Isn't it that you want me to soften? As she was thinking this, the door opened. Seeing the person standing in front of her, she immediately froze. Who are you? The person standing in front was a young girl who looked aloof but had very firm eyes. Who are you? Lucio asked again, her voice full of vigilance. The young girl sighed softly, not being polite at all. I am Kilian's cousin. Are you Lucio? The name, Kilian, being mentioned made Lucio's heart pound. She looked inside the house, trying to find a familiar figure. Where is he? Is he home? I have something I want to ask him. He's not here, the girl replied. Not here? Lucio scoffed, sarcasm evident on her face. What trick was he playing now? Tell him not to waste his time. I'm here now, so hiding is useless. The girl looked directly into Lucio's eyes, her gaze carrying an inexplicable sympathy. Mr. Kilian has passed away. The words were like a sharp knife, piercing straight into Lucio's heart. She let out a laugh, a dry, sarcastic sound. Do you think he'll believe that? He always loves dramatic stunts. This time, he's even using the excuse of death. I already heard this at the exhibition. But he can't fool me. What does he want? Does he want me to soften? Does he want me not to divorce? You go tell him, I will get the divorce no matter what. Where is he? Tell him to come out. The girl remained silent, letting Lucio vent all her anger and disbelief. Only when Lucio had calmed down a little did she open the door wider. Please come in, you'd better see it with your own eyes. Lucio stepped inside. The small house was simply furnished but clean and tidy. A familiar scent of ink and medicinal herbs wafted in the air. Her gaze stopped at a corner of the room. On a simple wooden table, there was a vase of white flowers and a photo frame. The photo frame was placed solemnly on a piece of black cloth. In the picture, Kilian was smiling. A rare and gentle smile. But his eyes reflected a weariness she had never noticed. Lucio's entire body stiffened. Every cell in her body seemed to stop functioning. She approached, her steps heavy and slow. The photo, it was a memorial photo. She reached out, trembling, and touched the frame. Her palm felt the coldness of the glass. Kilian's face in the picture was still very young. But that smile could never be seen in real life again. A gasp caught in Lucio's throat. All the mockery, all the suspicion, all the anger vanished, leaving only a terrifying emptiness. Really? Lucio's voice was lost, fragile as smoke. Yes, he passed away on the day he asked you to meet at the courthouse. The girl said softly. Kilian had late-stage cancer. He had reached his limit that day. Lucio's entire world seemed to crumble. She took a step back, bumping into the table. A dizzying sensation washing over her. Everything, all the strange actions, the unreasonable demands, the times Kilian disappeared, were true. He wasn't acting. He wasn't threatening her. He was just trying to complete the last 5 things of his life, which included meeting her at the courthouse to end everything properly. And she abandoned him. She called and scolded him when he was dying. She blocked his phone number. Lucio stared at the memorial photo, then raised her hand to cover her mouth. Hot tears streaming down her face. 5 things, she mumbled. At this moment, the door burst open, and Dembele walked in. He saw Lucio clutching a notebook. Her face tear-streaked beside Kilian's memorial photo. And let out a sigh, his expression full of exhaustion and grief. Miss Lucio, where is she? Dembele asked. The cousin shook her head slightly, pointing at Lucio. Dembele understood, walked closer. And looking at Lucio's miserable state, he couldn't suppress his emotions. What are you doing here? Dembele's voice was mixed with resentment and pain. Did you come to mock him one last time? Lucio looked up, her face pale. Tears still flowing relentlessly. She wanted to say something, but her throat was constricted. Are you telling the truth? He really? Dembele nodded bitterly. It's true, Kilian is gone, thanks to whom, I'm sure you know clearly. He saw the dazzling red string in the painting. Then looked at the notebook in Lucio's hand. Finally letting his gaze rest on Kilian's memorial photo. Those 5 things were the last things he wanted to do, to be with her like a family. Dembele said, his voice choking. Lucio hugged the notebook tightly to her chest, as if it were the last link between her and Kilian. The red string, what was it about after all? Dembele took a deep breath. The suppressed resentment finally erupting. Do you still remember the time you had a car accident and were temporarily blind? You said the person who took care of you was Carlos. The person who prayed for the protective red string for you. Lucio nodded. That was what she had believed for the past 3 years. It was all a lie. Dembele growled. Carlos, that faithless scoundrel. When you had the accident, he fled. Do you know who stayed by your bedside day and night? Who ran everywhere to find the best doctor? Who personally went up the mountain to pray for that red string? And personally fed you with their own hands? Dembele pointed at Kilian's memorial photo. It was Kilian, the very person you hated to the core. The one you constantly cursed. The one you thought was the obstacle in your love life. Lucio was completely stunned. She shook her head repeatedly, unable to accept this cruel truth. Impossible, it was Carlos, Carlos said. Carlos? He was just a latecomer. Who only came back to take credit after you recovered. And Kilian, he knew you hated him. Was afraid you wouldn't eat. Afraid you would neglect your health. So he endured everything. Dembele reached out to wipe his tears, his voice full of heartache. He had to wear a mask, had to disguise his voice. Had to be secretive like a thief to take care of the person he loved. Everything you remember about Carlos in the hospital was done by Kilian. When the red string broke, he ran up the mountain. His knees swollen, also because he wanted you to be safe. You cut it, he was heartbroken. But still silently collected it and kept it in his diary. Lucio clutched her head, the fragmented memories suddenly pieced together. The familiar scent of medicinal herbs in the hospital. It was all Kilian. It turned out the person she loved was the one who abandoned her. And the person she despised was the one who loved her the deepest. Even sacrificing his own pride. Lucio collapsed onto the floor. Her tears mixing with belated regret. She had lived a lie for 3 years. And had responded to the most sincere love with the harshest words. Kilian. She called his name through her choked sobs. But now, he could no longer hear it. Kilian is gone, you should leave. Dembele said, his voice flat. With no strength left for hatred or resentment. The truth was already cruel enough. Lucio struggled to her feet, her eyes red and swollen. She tightly clutched Kilian's diary and wig, and walked out of the house. Every step was a stab to her heart. As if she were walking on the shattered pieces of a 3-year fake marriage and the genuine love she had trampled. She knew Kilian's passing was the greatest punishment for her. She had lost him forever. Lost a selfless love. All because of her arrogance. Her blind hatred, and the cruel lies of another. Just as Lucio walked out of the complex, her phone rang. It was Carlos. She took a deep breath, trying to suppress the lump in her throat. But she couldn't speak. Lucio, what are you doing? Why did you leave me alone here? The exhibition is almost over. You know I need to meet that artist. Do you know how important this trip is to me? Carlos's voice was full of accusation, anger, and dissatisfaction. You just went back home without a word? Don't think you can do whatever you want just because you're a young lady. Our business. Lucio suddenly interrupted him. Not with words, but by coldly pressing the end call button. She didn't want to hear anything more from that person. The moment she heard Carlos's name, seeing his phone number, all the grief and regret suddenly transformed into a fierce flame of hatred, aimed directly at the one who had caused all the tragedy. Carlos. He had exploited Killian's love to gain her care and affection. He had built a false castle of happiness upon the silent sacrifice of another. Lucio's eyes became terrifyingly cold. She no longer cried, but instead wore a look of cruel determination. She took out her phone. Not to text or call, but to start a revenge. Carlos, you stole my Killian. Now, I will take back everything that belongs to you. And everything that doesn't. Returning to the company, Lucio transformed into a completely different person. She no longer had the lazy, depressed look or the singular focus on Carlos as before. Immediately contact everyone Carlos has ever collaborated with. Use every means, even the dirtiest, to cut off his financial resources. I want the entire assets and company of the Perez family to be under my control within a month. Start with the newest projects the Perez family is handling. Seize them, then let them collapse. Show no mercy. I want the Perez family to go bankrupt. And Carlos to be utterly ruined, losing everything. With no place to stand in the art and business world. The assistant shivered at her cruelty and decisiveness. Lucio was acting as if she were avenging an age-old feud. Lucio didn't just want to seize assets. She wanted Carlos to taste the feeling of losing everything he treasured. Losing the career he was always proud of. When Carlos dejectedly returned home, after all cooperation plans were cancelled and the family company faced bankruptcy, he called Lucio, his voice full of pleading and panic. Lucio, please help me. Someone is targeting our family. Only you can save us. You love me, right? Carlos knelt down, grabbing Lucio's hand. Lucio pulled her hand away, her icy gaze unwavering. Love, you don't deserve it, Carlos. She didn't say anything more, directly hanging up. Lucio leaned back in the cold leather chair in her office. She recalled the way Carlos had falsely talked about the pork rib soup and the red string at the exhibition, exploiting her blindness and affection to trample on Killian's sacrifice. Especially the way he had deliberately dropped Killian's wig to slander him. Lucio closed her eyes. She was not a benevolent person. Especially when her pain and regret had transformed into a cruel venom. She called her assistant, requesting a grand reception party to be held, under the pretext of celebrating a successful collaboration with a foreign partner. Of course, Carlos, despite being utterly ruined, was still invited, because he still had a slight reputation in the art world that Lucio needed to use to end everything. On the night of the party, Carlos arrived, his face haggard, begging Lucio for forgiveness and help. Lucio, say something. I know you still love me. Those things were all misunderstandings. You can't just watch my family fall apart like this. Lucio looked at the phone screen, where Carlos's name was displayed. She curled her lip into a cold smile. Love, you don't deserve it, Carlos. She didn't say anything more, directly hanging up. Lucio leaned back in the cold leather chair in her office. She recalled the way Carlos had falsely talked about the pork rib soup and the red string at the exhibition, exploiting her blindness and affection to trample on Killian's sacrifice. Especially the way he had deliberately dropped Killian's wig to slander him. Lucio closed her eyes. She was not a benevolent person. Especially when her pain and regret had transformed into a cruel venom. She called her assistant, requesting a grand reception party to be held, under the pretext of celebrating a successful collaboration with a foreign partner. Of course, Carlos, despite being utterly ruined, was still invited, because he still had a slight reputation in the art world that Lucio needed to use to end everything. On the night of the party, Carlos arrived, his face haggard, begging Lucio for forgiveness and help. Lucio, say something. I know you still love me. Those things were all misunderstandings. You can't just watch my family fall apart like this. Carlos knelt down, grabbing Lucio's hand. Lucio pulled her hand away, her eyes cold and unwavering. Love, you don't deserve it, Carlos. She didn't say much. That night, under her careful arrangement, an unexpected incident occurred in the art exhibit area. Carlos, while trying to cling to Lucio's attention and beg for her help, was pushed into a temporary renovation area. The floor had been dismantled and poorly disguised. Amidst the horrifying crash of a large plaster statue, Carlos fell into a 2-meter deep pit. crushed by debris and building materials. Lucio watched from a distance. Her face showed no panic or remorse. Immediately after, Carlos was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. Lucio closely monitored the situation. She didn't want him to die. She wanted him to live. And he had to live in agony. A few days later, the medical report was sent to Lucio's office. Carlos was lucky to survive. But the fall caused severe damage to his spine. And especially the nerves in his right hand. The hand he used to paint. The hand he was most proud of. Permanent nerve damage to the wrist and spine. The possibility of recovering fine motor function was almost zero. In other words, Carlos was 75% disabled. He would never be able to hold a paintbrush again. The dream of becoming a great artist. The career he used to deceive her, was now shattered into dust. Lucio held the report. A cruel and painful smile appearing on her face. Kilian, you once called me cold-blooded. Now I'm using this cold-bloodedness to reclaim justice for you. Lucio sent a short letter to the hospital. Along with a photo of Kilian's work, Sunset Maiden. In the letter, there was only one sentence. Now, you have truly lost everything. Carlos. Enjoy the pain you inflicted on others. After completing her brutal revenge, Lucio left the city's hustle and bustle, seeking out Kilian's final resting place. The cemetery was on a quiet hill, where cold winds swept through the cypress trees. She found Kilian's grave. A simple black granite slab. No birth date, no death date. Lucio knelt before the grave, placing the diary and the torn wig down. She didn't cry immediately. She just used a trembling finger to touch the carved inscription of his name. I'm here, Kilian. Can you see? I did as you wished. I removed all obstacles from my life. It wasn't until the sun set that the silence and coldness of the gravesite melted the last layer of ice in her heart. Lucio burst into tears, heart-wrenching, tearing sobs. Unlike the tears of regret or anger before, they were the tears of a love recognized too late. The tears of permanent loss. Why didn't you tell me? Why were you so foolish, Kilian? Why did you let me live in a lie? Let me hate you, torment you. When you just wanted me to be free. She collapsed onto the cold ground, hugging the tombstone as if embracing the very husband who had loved her with his entire life. The care, the red string, it was all you. You were the one who loved me. Not him. I was the blind one. Not my eyes, but my heart. Time passed. Lucio continued to run the company brilliantly. But she became completely estranged from everyone. All the money and power no longer held any meaning. She lived like a shadow, waiting for something. And then, on a cold winter day, snow began to fall heavily. Lucio visited Kilian's grave once more. She wore a thick coat, but no hat or umbrella. She brought a bottle of wine, pouring some onto the ground, then drinking the rest herself. She knelt beside the grave, opening the diary for the last time. She read over and over the lines full of love. The silent sacrifices he had made for her. Night fell, and the snow intensified. Lucio remained kneeling, her head resting beside the tombstone. She didn't feel cold. She only felt a strange peace enveloping her. She whispered her final words. Kilian, I'm coming to you. I'll never leave you again. The next morning, when the groundskeepers arrived for work, they were horrified to discover a heartbreaking scene. The snow had blanketed everything, forming a thick layer around the grave. Where Lucio knelt, her body was covered by snow, creating a small snow hill embracing the black tombstone. She had died of hypothermia, quietly and peacefully. Seen from afar, Lucio's snow-covered figure, lying inclined and embracing Kilian's grave, looked like an eternal snow mountain sheltering and warming their belated and undying love.